So here it's like what the RNG need to do in order to sort this stuff out. I mean, so they're doing well at punishing one person, which is great, and they've managed to get massive leads. They just seem like when they're ahead, they're going for fights permanently, which is fine, but then as soon as they fall behind, they're still trying to go for them fights permanently, which is what's actually leading to them being able to capitalize on it and actually come back. So the Zinzao first pick again, great. Again, Renekton, complete grief. Like, he's just gone zero. Like, you just had somebody go 0-7 and you haven't had a good Renekton game in the past 6. Why would you pick it again? Like, it's crazy. They do get the Ziggs again, which is obviously pretty good. Now, they're going to respond to the Ziggs this time with the Ezreal. So I did say last game that I really don't want to see that virus come out again. I'm glad that he went with something different, and I think the Ezreal matchup into Ziggs is kind of okay because you're never really looking to go for kill pressure on him anyway, and if you put him with a support that can roam, I'd actually really like to see something like a Bard here actually, so that if Ziggs goes for that really long range ultimate, Bard can just ult his team and they take no damage. So I think that's a good interaction into Ziggs that nobody's really picking up on. They did hover the Rise. I think the Rise is good, but the Lee Sin is just even better. I think Tarzan's just had enough now. Just wants to close this series out with the Lee Sins. So they ban away. So they ban away the Nidalee. So they're actually expecting this Lee Sin to go into a lane, which Lee Sin was actually very, very strong. I'm not sure if it was this patch where he was pick banned, but maybe it was actually in a lane anyway. So they actually went with the Leona quite early here, which is fine. That shows that they don't want to give the Leona over, which also means that they're not going with the Trundle again, which is kind of nice to see because I feel like they've just spammed the Trundle, and even though it's great into the Leona. Okay, Lucian, okay. So this is a Lucian top lane, which is going to be into the Renekton, I'm fairly certain, unless they pick a top lane here. No, so they're going to take the Rise. I'm surprised Rise got this far in the draft without getting banned, but they're going to put the Lucian top into the Renekton, so Renekton's going to have pretty hard lane to actually play here. Like, he can never really walk up, and as long as Lucian has his E up whenever Renekton has his E, then he's never going to really be able to get any damage on him, and he's just going to int again. Now, they do have the Rise and Ziggs, which is something that is was actually pretty popular. Who took it last? So was it LNG that was spamming it? No, so I think it was EDG. Yeah, so EDG really WE really liked this Rise Ziggs combo too. So it'd be interesting to see how LNG play it. Now, the only thing here, if I'm RNG, I'm in a very, very happy situation here because we have a Lucian that's going to be able to shut down the Renekton top, and we have quite a strong 2v2 with Lucian Zinzao as well. Even though we don't really have much CC, we have so much raw damage that it's fine. Now, on top of this, we do have a Rel that is able to roam because we have an Ezreal bot. He did take the cleanse into Leona. I'm not too sure about that one since he can use his flux to get away from the Leona's E. So then he's not actually in range for her to Q him. So not too sure about that one. I don't think that's too needed on the Ezreal. But one of the big things that I'm seeing about LNG's draft right now is that because they have this double AP mid and bot lane, they are going to have the potential to siege with the Ziggs, but they're going to be relying very heavily on this Lee Sin and Renekton to not fall behind. So if I'm RNG here, I'm just looking to basically try and shut down the Lee Sin and the Renekton, and then their AD damage is going to be very, very lacking. It means they can focus very heavily into MR, and they'll be very, very effective. Even though later on into the game, the wave clear is going to be very, very difficult to control, since the wave clear from RNG is nowhere near as big, but they have kind of invested into these early game champions like the Xin and the Lucian, so they should look to play around that. In terms of runes, everything looks fine, thank God. Syndra's got Gathering Storm. Rise has gone with a Water Walking, which I think is kind of int. I think Gathering Storm is just the only rune you should be looking to go in that kind of tree, unless you're playing something like Zyra, who can benefit off the Scorch early as a support. But I think in general the Gathering Storm is just way better. Ziggs has got it, which is good. I'm not a big fan of the absolute focus, just because, especially with the Syndra's range, they have the ability to poke him out below that threshold where he gets the additional damage. So I feel like in this game he's not going to be using it all that much, and I would have much preferred to see the Transcendence, since that haste later on into the game for his bombs cooldown is very, very important. We did see the Lee Sin go for Tenacity though, which the Tenacity doesn't really make much sense because Rel is displacements and Xin Zhao's a knock-up, so it doesn't really make much sense. What CC is he trying to reduce here? Like the Syndra stun, but that's it. So I really don't think it's worth that. I think honestly he should have just gone Alacrity, but he did solo start blue, and he obviously did both camps at the same time. So now he's going to look to go red and then try and punish this Lucian top lane, because he knows that it's not really going to get anything in this bot lane against this Ezreal. So he's going to path into the top side. He's probably going to full clear actually. Okay, so he's actually opting not to full clear due to the fact that the Lucian's got so much pressure over Renekton. Renekton can't really play this lane. He's already 7 CS down. All of this CS is in the wave, but Xiaohu, why was he that close? Like, melee range E, it made no sense. So they managed to get a level 2 on bot lane first, and they actually managed to get a kill out of it, maybe, no. So the Leona flashed away from it, but she also used her exhaust. So right now we have an exhaust flash gone in bot lane, so the Xin Zhao can potentially look to play a bit towards bot if he wants to. Lee Sin is on a much faster clear because Xin Zhao cleared his Krugs for some unknown reason. You should never really look to clear Krugs on Xin Zhao because they take too long and you're on the wrong side of the map. What he should look to do this game is try and match this Lee Sin's clear by just going red, chickens, and then Gromp, and then ganking top. Xin Zhao doesn't really need the blue at this stage of the game, so it's much, much better. And now this Lee Sin gets a timer, which actually ends up with the Lucian's flash. So I feel like Wei is just not really playing that well, to be honest. So Wei's pathing there is really bad, but Tarzan's pathing is good here, so he managed to get that pressure and managed to actually get something out of it. So I feel like LNG's early game is really, really solid, and I think that's partly because Tarzan's kind of leading them. The problem is stuff like this happens, and Icon just randomly walks in and gets kind of picked off by the Xin Zhao. Now the Rel is here as well. Like we previously mentioned, Rel is free to roam pretty much whenever she wants due to the fact that she has an Ezreal. So this was a really good fight, but they have allowed this Renekton to just get on top of him, so they're going to do a lot of damage. We see another TP coming in from Lucian, but he's probably going to get instantly popped. Oh, so Lucian actually manages to get the Renekton, and the Syndra stun is really big here. He manages to continue the fight. He does die, but this does allow them to just completely clean up, and the Syndra is going to be huge from this fight. If she can actually survive this... Okay, so she used her flash. Okay, Cryin playing this very, very well. So he managed to get out, and he picked up 2 kills. So now they have a massive amount of pressure in this mid lane. Ezreal just still farming bot lane safely, which is kind of what he wants to just look to do this game. Get to his 2 items and then look to rotate around the map and just kind of help his team. So he crashed quite a big wave into the tower as well, and the Ziggs actually committed his TP to get up there too. So Ziggs actually loses a lot out of this lane, and it's actually really bad for him. So here we see the Renekton TP coming in. Again, the Ziggs instantly follows too. Tarzan drops really low, but he does manage to get back into the fight. The Renekton gets quite a lot off, but it's not quite enough. Syndra's just in the back, doing a ridiculous amount of damage. The Rel actually did swap E onto the Lucian, which was good, because she managed to get the stun. And then she managed to keep going, got the knock-up onto the Lee Sin, and then managed to keep kiting with the Syndra, so that she actually managed to get out, which was really, really good. The Rel was a really big factor to the Syndra actually surviving there, and this kind of comes down with RNG's draft of having this Ezreal bot lane that doesn't really need the support to do what he wants to do. Like, Ezreal is a champion that if he has a support, great, he can potentially win the lane in a 2v2, but overall, you know, he doesn't really want to look for anything too much early, because he's just going to look to be a massive poke mage. Well, not mage, but massive poke champ later on. The Lucian's culling actually completely melts the Renekton. Once again, showing why this champion is completely useless. I feel like LNG would really benefit from a different coaching angle. Because the fact that coaches are allowing them to take Renekton over and over and over, even though they can clearly see that there's issues with it, to me is crazy. Now they're actually in a 2v2 here because they actually killed off the Renekton instantly because he's fucking useless. And now they're literally just going to wait for this Ryze to slowly die. So Xin Zhao just picks up a triple because Renekton can't do anything. He's 18 CS, he's got no TP. Ale yet again completely griefing his team. And it came again from draft phase. So this really isn't looking too good for them. So Rel is looking for an engage due to the fact that Leona is low and she doesn't have flash yet. It's just about to come back off cooldown, but either way. But at this point the Xin Zhao is so big, he's on his Iron Spike, Power Spike, which is a very, very big Power Spike. The Rel is getting caught out. But the Ezreal can just clean up the Leona quick. He does cleanse the damage from the Leona there, but the Lee Sin is just going to finish the Leona off. Oh, we tried to get them both actually. He threw his Q out to try and hit the Ezreal too, but the Syndra is actually just going to instantly kill the Ziggs. Oh no, okay. So the Gathering Storm actually lost the kill technically there, but just because it doesn't really give anything until 10 minutes. So if, you know, she would have got that extra damage from it, or if she would have had Scorch, she would have killed him. But either way, oh, the Zigzag is actually going to go clean that up. So we see a replay of this fight. So the Renekton tries to join the fight, but he just gets instantly killed because he doesn't know the Xin Zhao is there. And they try and punish this Lucian, but Xin Zhao is just there at the perfect time to just kill them all off. And now the Ryze can't get in range of the Lucian to do really anything, especially with the Xin Zhao slowing him, and they just end up getting an easy triple kill on the Xin. I would have liked to see maybe that split, so 2 kills, so maybe 2 kills on Xin and then 1 on Lucian, or even 2 on Lucian, 1 on Xin. But as long as Xin actually does something with this early pressure, it should be fine, since now he has such a huge lead over the Lee Sin as well. So this game has very much so far been this kind of 2v2 top lane, try and stop this Renekton being completely useless. So I feel like Tarzan's kind of just lost everything, and now the Ezreal is ridiculously ahead on bot lane. He's actually very close to getting his Sundra. I think he'll get it on this reset. So he's going to have a Sundra around 9 to 10 minutes, purely because he's got a kill, and also the Ziggs is nowhere near his mythic, and he has a 30 CS lead at 9 minutes. So it's crazy, and this is because the Ziggs used his TP to go and help his team. So the thing is, this game is pretty much over now, due to the fact that RNG are just so far ahead due to LNG just committing their teleports over and over and over for fights that were already over. So it's crazy that they did this. Okay, so again, Ezreal's huge, 2 levels up on the Ziggs, on the Leona, sorry, right now, which means he's just going to shred her over and over. He's going to do so much damage, especially like I said, when he gets his reset off and gets a, so he's actually using his ult there just to poke him out a bit because he wants to reset anyway. So that ult's going to be cooling down as he resets and the wave is pushed in. So he's just getting a little bit of poke on them. They could have just looked to hold that wave there and potentially froze it because the Rel recalled early so that she could get to this top fight. So we can already see on the map right here, the Rel is actually walking up to try and influence this fight already, because she knows that right now this game is being played around this 2v2 top lane, and she wants to get there and have as much influence as possible. Leona is is so far behind right now, and she's not even coming to the play. So the Zim manages to get on top of the Renekton. Unfortunately, uses his flash because he plays it wrong, but they kill the Renekton only, which is unfortunate. They are going to get this first turret top lane though, and potentially look to siege on the next. Again, Rel is completely free to make this rotation, and nothing can really stop her, because Ezreal can farm the lane very, very easily, and he's already got this massive lead, due to the fact that Ziggs just completely griefed earlier into the game, and just completely gave away his ability to lane by TPing to a fight that, you know, he shouldn't have had to TP to. So right now, the Ezreal poke on the Ziggs is actually huge. So here, this is really bad. He doesn't really have much mana, but he does have plenty of HP. Why is he instantly clearing this wave off when he could just hold it here? Like, just hold this wave here, even though the Ziggs is there. Like, Ziggs is very, very low. He can't really contest anything. Hold the wave here, and then just recall. Even if you recall and it's going to end up slow pushing in, you're still going to come back into lane in a slow push when you're 40 CS up and you have a kill. So he's already got so much gold. He's going to get his Sundra on base and probably his boots too. And then he's going to be able to come back into the lane and actually do something impactful instead of just having this wave reset and have Ziggs get the pressure on it later. So this wave resetting, he is still going to recall on the reset, but I would much prefer for him to build either, I don't think he could freeze that, but just a slow push so that he could use that when he gets back. So see, we can see here that he finishes his Sundra and gets his boots. He opts in to get into another longsword too. But now Ezreal is ridiculously fed. Now Wade's just going to quickly get this dragon. He can do it very, very fast. He's got his gold drinker now. They know that Tarzan's on top side as well, so he doesn't even need to smite this objective. But it is an infernal stat, which does mean that there is a possibility for a mountain, ocean, or cloud, which we will see after this if the observers have a look over. Okay, so it's an ocean. So if they get a mountain soul, great, but if they get the next dragon and it turns out that it's a cloud soul, what they can do is they can just leave that and then just look to play TDM and just get as many kills on the map as possible, since they'll have infernal dragon and ocean dragon mark. So that's probably what they want to look towards. Tarzan's still trying to bail out Ale. Ale, more like Bale. Oops. Okay, so let's have a look at this fight actually. So we see Tarzan kind of manages to catch out the Syndra. Actually does manage to catch out the Syndra. They do kill him instantly though. That is worth for the side of LNG though. Getting rid of your jungler for a very important mid laner is good, because now this means that if Rise gets out of this, he gets the ability to make some of his lead back. Unfortunately, he does get out of it. And he manages to get to safety. So right now the Ezreal is living his life. He's got that long sword so he can get his Mana Moon as soon as possible, since he's only 51 stacks away from it. 48 now. So he's 48 stacks away from his Mana Moon. So that's going to be a really, really big power spike that he is looking for, just because it's very good on Ezreal. It applies on his Qs, so it just does so much damage. So Tarzan, you know, just looking to clear out his jungle. Here we have another replay. We see Crying coming in on a TP ward. He does put control ward down, but he doesn't realize that they have a ward on that ward. So Tarzan actually plays it well to not let her know that he knows and that she's there, and then they instantly pop her off. But that's the extent that they get. It's actually a pretty good trade for LNG in terms of what they gain compared to what they lose. I don't think it's really going to matter that much. I think this game is pretty over though. Like, it's very, very hard for LNG to come back into this game now, considering the Ziggs and the Renekton are so far behind because they just decided to use their teleports in terrible ways, like absolutely terrible. But Ziggs is on his 1-item spike now. Ezreal is getting quite close to his Moramana. Syndra built a Lost Chapter, and now she's going straight Seraphs because she realizes that she's going to get 360 before she's managed to finish her mythic item and the Archangel Staff. So they do manage to get this Herald. Again, it's 16-minute Herald. It's not really that worth. Unless they, you know, manage to break multiple towers with it. If they do manage to break this mid lane... Oh, okay. So Gala really getting up, kind of caught out. He knew that the Lee Sin was in the jungle with the Leona, and he knew that they had the ability to dive him. So he just shouldn't have stayed there. He should have just backed away from the tower, let them get the tower, and then just farm safely from his tier 2. This was really, really grief by him. And again, it just shows how good LNG are at trying to find picks. Okay, so Wei actually managed to kill the Ziggs, as Xiaohu also killed the Rise. So now we can see these really fed laners starting to move about, especially considering the tier 1s are gone. So now they managed to get this tier 1 in bot lane as well. So they've just managed to pick up 2 towers in short succession. So the Lucian and the Xin both have 400 gold bounty. So they're both worth 700 gold each, which is a considerable amount of gold. And that's the only real way that LNG are going to come back into this game. If they manage to get both of those bounties, they can still potentially win. But I think the chances of that are quite low since Xin Zhao has his ultimate. So he only really needs to go with fights around ultimate. I am also interested to see that Lucian went with the Gale Force into Cyrilda's. I think if you want to go Cyrilda's second, going Eclipse is super powerful. Purely because it just amplifies everything so much. And if he wants that armor pen so early, then to deal with the Lee Sin and the Renekton, then that's completely fine. And Leona too, they do have 3 tanky members, but I would have much preferred to see that Eclipse just for the earlier lane domination, since he was so powerful inside the laning phase. It's cheaper, and it just synergizes very well at 2 and 3 items. Just because of the amount of armor penetration that it actually gives. It's going to allow him to just rip through everybody, and then that kind of relieves a bit of the pressure that Lucian has by not really being a late game champion, and the fact that he can still use his ultimate, he can still kind of get those slows with the ult and still stay safe. And we can see it here that he's just kiting them into oblivion right now. Now he does get exhausted, so he can't keep going, but the Ezreal ult does actually hit too. So if the Leona hadn't have actually used the ult there, they would have got it, but they're going to respond cross map by getting this tower anyway. So I actually like what RNG are doing. They're accepting that something is being lost at the other side. They're still putting in a good fight and not really losing anything, but they're also then making sure that they get things elsewhere on the map. Now, the Rise is going to instantly clear waves out though, so for this game, RNG are going to need to secure that Baron buff, so they're going to need to wait for that 2 minutes, and then try and find a pick on Tarzan if they're going to win and close this game out soon. If they do that though, that's going to be very, very good for them. Because it's going to allow them to siege all of the outer towers, which is then going to mean that Ziggs can never really farm safely, and same with Rise. Like, if the waves are pushing out because they bounce the waves off the base towers, then they're going to end up in situations where they can't really look to walk out, because as soon as they walk out, they just die. Like, it's... There's no forgiveness when it comes to fucking up wave management at this level of play. Not if the team choosing to use advanced wave mechanics actually know what they're doing, which RNG clearly do, since they're one of like the world's best like teams. So they do potentially look to go on Ale, but then they decide not to. They're just going to poke him out instead, which is fine. Xin Zhao misses his W, but the Renekton tries to go... Oh, he does manage to kill a Syndra, okay. So, the Renekton, when he managed to get on Syndra, actually completely mauled her. Even though Xin Zhao did return the kill, this is still quite scary because it shows that Renekton still has somebody that he can kill. Now, if he does that to Lucian or Xin, that's much better because of the bounties, which he decided not to. But Xin Zhao does look really in a bad spot right now, and Cryin is dead for 13 seconds. So I don't actually think he's going to be able to get out of this, and he's going to actually give his bounty over. This is dreadful for the side of RNG, because the bounty of, well, he was worth 500 gold, so 800 gold has gone over, and now they can actually look to start using that lead. Lucian had to reposition with his E for his ultimate, so it was a bit premature that he actually used it. Again, it is a little bit more of an awkward ability to use, but it is basically point at them and fire. So it is a bit of a shame that he actually had to use that. Didn't have his Gale Force up to kill him there either, which is also an execute. So, okay. So as we can see here, Ale, he's got all of his rage bar, so he manages to get so much on top of this Syndra. But as we can see here, the Xin Zhao did manage to clean it up. Again though, I would be a bit concerned due to the fact that the Syndra is kind of one of their main forms of wave clear this game. Unless, you know, Lucian decides to use his ultimate, because, you know, Ezreal's wave clear isn't terrible, but it's definitely not at the same level of someone like Syndra. But the Renekton did actually use his flash to get on top of Syndra to get that kill, and we see a really good fight here. Wendy gets picked off for no good reason whatsoever, and Mig manages to, but they do collapse actually really well, and this is going to look like Ale gets on the backline, does a lot of damage. Lucian culling in such a short entrance though. Wei jumps straight on Renekton, definitely not worth it there, and the Lucian manages to get caught also. Is he going to outplay this? No, he's not. Lee Sin is probably going to kill him. Oh no, he does manage to sidestep that. Gala going nuts though, he misses his Q unfortunately. If he would have landed that Q, maybe he would have survived, but not quite. Now, that fight was very scrappy, and again, like, I don't know what happened with RNG's kind of team fights. In this game, their team fights are really weak. And they're just going for kind of, they're committing too much. They're getting something out of the play. Like there, as soon as they manage to get the catch and get the stopwatch out of Leona, they should have just backed out at that point and then played around catching her again. Instead of just fully committing, especially considering Rel used her ult and W. So here we can see Rel uses her ult W in order to lock down the Leona, but then she just instantly stopwatches. Zig's ult misses, but then Leona just walks out and Renekton gets a really good flank off. The Lee Sin manages to just do work in the back, and Renekton just zones off 3 of their members. The Lucian actually gets there and starts pumping out a shit ton of damage, but Wei just completely griefs, going for the Renekton who's already so far behind instead of dropping back and looking to peel for the Lucian, and then he ends up dying. Well, he doesn't die. Lucian actually survived that. So now this game's very much on Lucian to not die, because if he dies and gives away that 800 gold shutdown, then that's very bad. They do manage to get the Cloud Dragon, but Cloud Soul doesn't really matter that much. They do get a really good Rel ult here though into the E, and the Lucian is just allowed to do a shit ton of damage. So right here now Lucian's just going to clean up, and they're going to get a really good fight. So they actually managed to get a good fight here, because I feel like LNG focused way too much on the dragon, but they're actually going to get this kill and then maybe go into straight Baron too. So this just completely changed the game. So this one fight, I hope they do replay it. This completely changed the game. Lucian was just in the backline doing as much damage as he wanted, and there was nobody to really stop him. And, you know, then they just kind of popped off. So this game is actually looking very good for RNG now. Like, they're playing this, they've been playing this very bad in comparison to LNG. But overall, this Lucian pick has actually worked out very well. Now, I can't see them getting Lucian again, especially considering it's technically a triple flex, double primarily in terms of overall game. But let's go back over this and see about this fight. So RNG was actually starting this dragon, and Lee Sin managed to get it, obviously smite Q. But then the Lucian, as you can see here, just gets to tons of damage. Rel gets a really good engage for 3 members of the enemy team, and now they're just completely laying in on them. And now we can see here that the Wei jumps in on the Lee Sin too, gets him, Icon dies as well, and then they just run everybody down. So this was a 5-0 for RNG, and it all came down to the fact that they would, you know, LNG just focused way too much on this objective and didn't take into consideration the team fighting potential of the comp. Okay. So we can see RNG just pushing through towards this, and now they have the Barons, so they're just looking to siege as much as possible. It's interesting to see what they're actually going to do with this Baron though, because they do have a massive amount of siege and poke with just the Ezreal alone, since he's incredibly fed. He's going for his Cyrilda's now. The Lucian does get caught, but the culling just completely melts a Renekton due to the fact that he's so far behind. Now TP comes in from Cryon to stop Icon just completely murdering Lucian, and Lucian again is allowed to just do whatever he wants. So I feel like RNG are playing very well around fed members of their team here. So they know the Lucian is fed, they know he's their win condition, and they're just going to play towards it. And now, since they've got Baron and 2 are dead, they're just going to look to siege this game out, and then they'll end it off that. So again, this did look very, very shaky for RNG, but unfortunately it was more of a kind of case of LNG throwing the game. Okay, so Rel gets another ult. She just runs into their tower though. That's interesting. I don't know why. They managed to shut down the Lucian for 1,000 gold, but Gala is going crazy right here. They managed to either Renekton away again, confirming how useless this champ is, and then the Ezreal is just going to be able to clean this fight up, I think. So they're just going to focus on Nexus here. Okay, and Ezreal doesn't actually die there as well. So even at the end, like, they just played it way too risky. I don't know why she went for that dive, but they managed to bring back one game. So 2-1 to LNG right now. I think this game was very, very messy, and there was a lot of mistakes from RNG. I really don't see why RNG are refusing to kind of play around their bot lane, like, not fully, but if your bot lane has an opportunity to do something, you should still be kind of looking to go towards that, which I feel like when they had Uzi, they did that way more consistently, but now they don't have him. I feel like they're playing way towards other lanes more so, which, again, I think Gala actually has set up so many different plays that just haven't come into anything because they haven't gone from them. So that was game 3. Let's jump into game 4. I'll end that for the YouTube video.